So anyway, kind of doubling back past this distraction of the experimental film, we're really looking at Where Did You Sleep Last Night by John Baynard. And this is Peter Baynard, who is the associate producer of the film, and we're delighted to have you with us. And probably one of the first questions that I ask is, what is the role of an associate producer?
It varies project to project. For this, I'm actually based out of New York, so I couldn't be on the ground as much with my dad. But he would send me, when he would have an interview, that audio, and I would sort of go over that. And then when I would come back on weekends, I'd go out and then.
Okay.
And my dad is a very self-sufficient guy, so. It's when he goes out, to get these interviews, he can.
Okay. Yeah, I think. All right.
In and out.
Yeah, it's in and out.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, we'll try this again. So yes, not on the ground. Okay. Somebody needs to let us know they're not paying attention to us. So.
Should we pass this one?
Yeah.
This one's not either.
Okay. Now we're not getting any sound at all. No sound.
I can just talk louder.
Okay. But they see us. They see us, and they know we're having problems. So
But
it's
I won't
fine,
be
too,
able
if you all want to move forward.
We could,
And
but are you
it
trying
can
to
be a
record
much
it
more
also? Is
intimate
that the problem?
discussion.
Maybe if we just go close.
I think so. We're small enough that we can do this.
You look so much like your dad. Doesn't he look like his dad?
I think he looks like a mom.
Yeah.
I get both.
Here we go. Yeah. Okay. So feel free to come close. Okay.
Everybody-
But not in front of
So
your
anyway,
leg.
I was asking what it really means to be an associate producer on a film. Oh, we've got it.
Got it? Yes. Okay.
We have
Now
it,
you're
yeah.
too close.
So yes. So maybe we should start again. So the role of an associate
Yeah,
producer.
so being based out of New York, it's unique to this particular project, and I sort of really just helped in any way that I could from that distance, and then whenever I would come back on weekends, I would go out with him then. And yeah, I mean, this is a project that's been going on for the last year and a half, so it's been, he met Gene a year and a half ago, and at that point, it was meeting a lot of different people at Healthcare for the Homeless and talking to them and hearing their stories with the idea of it being sort of a lot of smaller vignettes and portraits. And then I think once we got to know Gene, it was clear that there was a much bigger story there. And so that sort of changed the angle of it.
Mm-hmm. For those of you in the audience that don't know, Peter is John's son, so they work together. I'm wondering, growing up in the home of a filmmaker, did you always know that this was the direction that you wanted to go?
Yeah, actually, both my parents are in TV and film. My mom was a producer, and she's here. And so that I've been going out on shoots with my dad since I was 12. So it's always been something that I was passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Have you and your father always had some interest in the homeless and filming, or forming a relationship, I should say?
My dad's been shooting stories on the homeless in Boston for as long as I can remember. So, I'm 28, and it's been almost pretty much my whole life. And so it's always been something that was a big part of our household, and something that I certainly he's been passionate about and telling their stories and giving them a voice. And so that's something that I came up really respecting and admiring. So it was great to work with him on a project like this.
So because you were going back and forth between Boston and New York, what was it like for you to be kind of floating in and out of Jean's life? Would she be as open to even discussing her life story with you and your dad when you were there?
Well, it's certainly, I think you see in this the roller coaster of her sobriety, and so it from month to month can change. and so where she was at personally, and as she said, she was really getting kind of jerked around with getting housing for 5 years, and so this was obviously at the end of that, but she has relapsed several times, so it really varied, and so he would send me the audio files of interviews with her, and
I hear it
yeah,
coming in
okay.
and out. Yeah.
He would send me those audio files, and so I sort of got a sense of it and had a sense of it even when I was gone of any sort of new developments with her searching for housing, and when he met her sister, he met with her brother, who's not on film, and then her dad, who gave the footage, the old footage from her childhood.
Did you help edit as well?
I sat in with him while he edited, but he's much better at editing than I am. I would, that's a specialized niche. So that was him.
Mm-hmm. At the end, it has up in the corner this the project that sponsors this, or
World Witness Project?
Yes. Could you speak a little bit about that?
World Witness Project is it's a nonprofit that my dad started that is sort of focused on giving voices to the voiceless, and the homeless community is certainly a community that is very underrepresented. And he's done a lot of stuff. It's internationally, and told stories, after the tsunami, and he's been in Burma, and so it's just something that he started, and it's sort of an umbrella for a lot of his pieces like this.
Mm-hmm. An interesting idea of journalists being a witness to what's going on. I love that title. Do we have questions in the audience? Mm-hmm. We can do it.
This is fascinating and also beautifully done. I wonder what trajectory you envision carrying this, just seeing where it will lead with Jean, and is it something about anything reconciling more with her family? Is it really, it seems like, okay, we're at a hopeful moment here with her sobriety, and I'm curious about, how long you think you'll take it, and also how, it says maybe after 10 weeks, after 8 weeks, after 3 weeks, when do you decide to, or when does John decide to check back in with her? Can he communicate with her in between?
It's a good question. And well, first of all, I think that now it's a lot easier to have access to cell phones, and the homeless often have cell phones now. Whereas when I was a kid and he was shooting stories like this, and it was a lot harder to maintain contact and even find the people you were shooting. And so the end of this was about 5 months ago, and at that point she'd had a couple months of sobriety. She had about 4 months of sobriety, and then the last few she has relapsed and has been, she's gone to detox and hasn't taken. And so it really is this roller coaster of up and downs. And I think following up with her and getting more of her background with her family, certainly getting more of Angelo's story. He's had a very interesting life as well. And then I think we would love to interview her sons. We haven't done that. She sees them, but as she said, one of them is won't be around her when she drinks. They've been to her home, and her granddaughter has been there once or twice, but it's certainly not at the place where she would like. And so I think and also she with her family, I think she would really like to have a more solid length of sobriety when she goes back to her family, if she's pretty embarrassed, and would like to reconcile with them when she's got a stronger footing. And so, yeah, it is ongoing. So yeah.
Wonderful. Yes. How did you and your father come to the final picture where there's like light shining down on Jean, and it's almost like this eternal hope that she's going to make it, this time?
I think it's just what you said. I mean, it's a great portrait my dad shot, and I think it really speaks to the hope, and she's someone who really wants to stop drinking, and she really wants to have a house, and she wants to, have a life with her family and with her kids and with her granddaughter. And so she has a lot of hope, and we are hopeful for her.
That was beautiful. That was a really beautiful shot at the end. Do we have questions?
How has it influenced your filmmaking, this progress?
Well, that's a good question as well. I think that, seeing the struggle that she has gone through in her life, off of something that was not her fault at all when she was young, and so that's something that she's dealt with for her whole life, and that she still struggles with, and I don't know. I mean, it's cliche to say, but just not taking things for granted in my own life and in my own work, and really trying to give a voice to subjects or to people who are not as well spoken for. And it also, it made me. It makes me angry that this is someone who really is trying, and I think she's someone who maybe it's a group that's very stereotyped, the homeless, and she maybe falls into some of those stereotypes with her alcoholism. But as you see, there's a lot more to it than that, and her story is a lot deeper than what you'd see if you walk by her on the street. And so I think just exploring things deeper in my work.
I guess I meant, are you going to follow in your father's footsteps and do these type of films?
I work in film, and I actually have more of a background in comedy, so I've been doing more of that. But this is something that, as we said, has been a part of my life, and in terms of telling these stories and representing these groups, and so it's something that I've taken more seriously. I think working in comedy, I tend to take things as a joke a lot, and this is a serious subject, so yeah.
Great. Other questions? Seems to be a theme tonight. The earlier film about a chance to dress, and someone taking that, coming out and cross-dressing, and not the lack of judgment, just suspending judgment. And the same thing for like walking past homeless on the street and suspending judgment, because it's like what you said, there's so much more that's going on than what meets the eye. We just see someone dirty, drunk, and sometimes verbally just someone you don't want to be around. Yeah.
And the division from their children, and the struggle that they both had with their own sons.
Exactly.
Particularly.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a big judgment piece here, just a learning process. So just curious, I think that, we don't have any other questions, but I'm curious about what you're doing in comedy in New York.
I produce a stand-up show, a live show that is, it's a New York show. It's now at UCB, which is a comedy venue there. And then I write and direct videos. So not necessarily in the vein of this at all. So.
Okay. Right, because with like a documentary, you don't have a written script, right? You're just there, you're filming, but you write for narrative. Okay, interesting. Okay. Any other questions? Yes.
Actually, I was just in New York City for the first time in a couple of years, and it seems like there's a lot of homeless in New York City, and it's so sad because it's so crowded and people are so inured to it. And I walked by, there was a guy lying on the ground, kind of a young guy, didn't look like a bum or anything, and everybody's just walking by him, ignoring him, and I was what do I do? Do I call a cop? Do I get involved? Do I touch him? What do I do? And it's so nice to see that somebody did get involved with someone here, but I wonder, there must be a million stories like this in New York City, and how do you deal with it? How do you humanize all these people?
Yeah, in New York right now, it's been a pretty controversial subject. De Blasio's been, I think, trying to give more freedom, and I don't know. People are up in arms about the homeless in New York, and as if it's a problem that you can snap your fingers and give them all homes or put them somewhere else, and that's not that simple. It's a lot more complicated than that. And even when you are living on the street for a long time, and like Jean, and you get a home, and then it's this issue. Her apartment is in Hyde Park, and her whole family of the family that she's built on the street are not there. And when it's a cold night, or she wants to share her good fortune with them. And if she's not drinking and they're coming over drinking, that's really hard for her. And then also, she is lonely out there. It's very isolating. So she wants people to come see her, and it's hard to separate yourself from bad habits. So it's
Be kind of spiraling
yeah.
out of control, and where she could even lose her home and lose her sobriety by association,
Yep.
right?
I did have one question about her own life story. I understand the devastation of the sexual abuse, but she said she was voted most likely to succeed. What do you know? Was that like in her later teen years? So did she do okay for a while, somehow? Was she joking when she said that?
No, she was.
Serious.
Yeah, that was serious.
Oh.
And when she graduated high school, she got a job right out of high school. She was managing the McDonald's, and then she was a house painter when she had kids, and through their life until they're about 18, and then it's and she would say that it was more of a social drinking problem until then, and then it sort of. The apartment she was living in got bought, and she couldn't live there anymore, and then sort of the combination of economics and the drinking kind of led her down this path.
You got a question?
Yeah, we heard from her, I assume her sister Kathy. Do we know anything about the rest of her family? Are the rest of them like Kathy, sort of appearing successful middle-class people?
So she had 11 siblings. It was a really big family. Some of them have had very rough times, rougher than rough times. She has a sister who was murdered, and her brother who abused her and her sisters was also murdered. She's not in close contact with her siblings. She had a younger brother and a younger sister who we saw who were willing to talk and share things, and then her dad as well. But she, I think they wanted to help her, and she was too ashamed to go back to them, and it's kind of been that way for a long time now, where she doesn't feel like she wants to go, or she does want to, but she doesn't feel like she can until she's in better shape, or she wants to reconnect with that part of her life.
Other questions or comments? It's like sometimes I've worked with the homeless before, as well as alcoholics, and I think so many times there's this feeling that they don't deserve, and because the shame is so great, and just needing to prove themselves to a point before they can re-enter people's lives that they truly care about. So it seems like that's very well expressed with Jean. Yeah.
And I do want to say that it's as John's work always, because he's the shooter. I assume that you didn't shoot some of it.
No.
He just does such exquisite work. It was a beautiful thing to see, even though it's the subject matter isn't technically beautiful. Yeah.
I'll pass that along.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes, we were talking about the cleanness of the shots and how it just seems like he's just there and not behind a camera. It's beautiful how he can bring that closeness of the individual in. It's lovely. Okay. Well, thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
And thank you for the work that you and your dad do. It's very meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you.